will be the scope of the work for the 57,000. That'll be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. Commissioner Ford, you're in the queue.
Thank you. I was trying to find the head of this organization. She was here.
Yeah, they had to leave.
Go back to her. Okay, yeah. That middle part of what the commissioner was talking about as far as the job creation and helping these youth get their licenses so that they can go from point A to point B and be positive contributors to society. That's also something that is being worked on a separate item as well. So I support this item, but I'm supporting them.
Our screens were voting.
We have aye votes from Commissioners Clay Bibbs, Sugarman, Ford, Wright, Thornton, Brooks, Lowry, and Avant. We have 8 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 3O, that motion passes. We're at 3P, Madam Parliamentarian.
Item 3P is a motion amending the fiscal year 2026 operating budget to allocate funding to the Center for Community Research and Evaluation, CCRE, for a criminal justice data laboratory in the amount of $175,000, sponsored by Commissioner McWright.
Thank you, Madam Parliamentarian. This item was moved by Commissioner Wright, a second by Commissioner Sugarman. Commissioner Wright, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is currently reviewing our bail hearing room data, and this would expand their scope so that they could collect and gather and report on those 18 metrics that the Comptroller's Office recommended that we do. So this is really mainly an effort that the County Attorney's Office is helping arrange, that will require some collaboration across the entire justice system to collect those 18 pieces of data and be able to report that publicly.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That item goes, 3P passes, that motion passes. So we're now at 3Q.
This item requires an allocation of $265,000 from the FY 2026 General Fund to the EOC operation, sponsored by Commissioner Erica Sugarman.
Thank you, Madam Parliamentarian. This item was moved by Commissioner Sugarman, a second by Commissioner Ford. I don't see any commissioners in queue for this one. Oh, okay.
The commission. And again, this mirrors what's already in place at the
have in place. So, for example, if they got 14 people in EOC, would this increase the number to 17, or would these 3 positions be within the 14?
So I was not aware they had positions available, so if
No,
that
well,
is,
I don't know, I'm just, are you adding to the FTE, or are you trying to get this from the actual FTE?
to your point, Commissioner, if there are positions available, that would be amenable. But to, I don't know if there's any positions available in the EOC. So at this point in time, I'm adding 3 positions.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarity, thank you.
She's gone. Yeah, we don't need no more paper. We don't need no more paper. I got this. So I think there's opportunity.
Yeah,
Commissioner Lowry.
thank you, Chair. Just questions, can we find out if they have positions open?
So I think the question, I don't see Mr. Wilbur, but I see CAO Perry, who's here. Can you repeat the question, Commissioner
Yes,
Lowry?
Go ahead.
defer to the sponsor.
Okay, yes, Chief Perry, the question on the floor is, are there already positions in EOC so that we can realign these positions, these 3 positions for the clerk, that is a manager B, a clerk, as well as an investigator? How many positions are available in EOC?
Madam Clerk, well, Commissioner Brooks?
Point of order, a personal privilege question, what have you. On Monday, maybe can we request that Mr. Wilburn come down and let us know whether or not this is an appropriate fit? Because one is a law enforcement.
Dealing with complaints made, for example, on jailers or sheriffs, regardless of affirmative action. And so, again, this is an investigatory type thing with a board, a separate board, independent board that will report back to the commission, which have already been in place. And I believe Commissioner Brooks was the one that sponsored the ones for the board members.
No. For this?
You sponsored the board members, yes, that goes along with it.
Okay, okay.
All right, Madam Clerk. I think she did tally our votes, yes. In this 3Q, the motion passes. So, Madam Parliamentarian, we're at 3R.
Item 3R is a motion amending the fiscal year 2026 operating budget to allocate funding to the Memphis Zoo.
A second by Commissioner Ford. We have a few commissioners that are in queue for item, well, my screen is still showing 3Q, so let me let it catch up. All right, it was moved by Commissioner Bradford, a second by Commissioner Ford. Commissioner Sugarman, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to reiterate for the listening audience, I've been receiving complaints, from individuals regarding, why are we supporting the zoo? Because they have, resources, et cetera, et cetera. But I just want to put, the purpose of the 1.5 million is to offset the zoo's operating expense as it relates to the free Tuesday admissions. Okay, this is extremely important. Our babies need something to do, but I want to make sure it's affordable to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sugarman. Commissioner Ford, you're in the queue.
Thank you, and I appreciate the commentary my colleague just gave. I do have a question to the sponsor, and maybe he can help me with this, because we had a resolution that was similar but not similar for another entity known as Shelby Farms. And I think that we did something where that money is going to continue over and over and over. I don't know if we did it in the form of an ordinance or a resolution. Could the sponsor give me some highlights on what we did for them? And could he let me know if this is different from what we did for Shelby Farms, and is there a way that we could possibly do something similar for the purposes of this organization not necessarily having to come back over and over and over? Because Shelby Farms, they give us their quarterly reports, but we pass something where it's in the budget every year through the chair to the sponsor.
Commissioner Bradford?
So the item before us is just a one-time. I think it is the intent that the zoo would love to be a reoccurring item in our budget. I am not familiar with what we did or how we worked out with Shelby Farms, but I'd certainly be happy to work on that to help the zoo in the future. But this time, what's right here in front of us is just a one-time.
Tuesday incentive for Tennessee residents. I'm just curious why there is a need. It's my understanding that this has been an offering up until this point. So is there a need for the 1.5 million? Or is this just something that we're choosing to cover the cost of at this point? Commissioner Sugarman, it's a question to you, just to your comments about the Tuesday relief that this is supposed to cover. Commissioner Sugarman, are you very caught up to speed on, is this total amount going to cover the Tuesday free pass for Tennessee
my
Tuesday?
conversation-
It's needed, or is this just, oh, great, y'all are here. Didn't realize y'all were here. Thank you. If you could just explain to us the 1.5, if it's for the Tennessee Tuesday, then how have you been funding this up until this point?
Sure. Matt Thompson, President CEO, Memphis Zoo. Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. Yes, we have been funding it, and our ask is for, honestly, is to cover operational support, as our expenses have dramatically increased and our public funding has not. And so the idea that we had was to, if this is granted, to make the Shelby County a sponsor of this day. And so, as you might know, Tennessee Tuesday starts at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and goes until close. And so what we would move to do is just kind of redo the whole thing, make it a Shelby County sponsored event, and make it all day and year round. So completely rebrand it and use that money for that. But it's primarily a request for operating support.
And so thank you for that response. Just as a follow-up, so we would, in essence, need to annually fund at this amount to continue to make that offer, correct?
Yes, to reiterate, this is a one-time ask. Our goal would be for recurring funding, yes.
Okay, okay, I'll get back in queue, sorry. Thank you for these responses.
Chairman Wiley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to answer the question around the Shelby Farms arrangement and how that's different. So the Shelby Farms is a county park for one, so the county has ownership of the park. And then with Shelby Farms, we have a management agreement. So the management agreement is what lays out the county's operating contribution, and it hadn't been updated in years. This was in our first term, I believe. It hadn't been updated in years, even though the heart of the park went under renovations. They expanded the size of the Shelby Farms Park. And so the park was coming to us each year trying to request an addition to that allocation, and then we eventually updated the management agreement itself to update the amount that we contribute. So that's why it's set at that higher amount each year without any additional action this body has to take. I think if that's something that at some point wants to be explored with the zoo, that's going to be a much deeper conversation because, if we're contributing more, I certainly would think that we'd expect to have, better understanding of what the ownership looks like and what role Shelby County plays in that. But that's the reason why it's the way it is with Shelby Farms Park.
Thank you, Chairman Wiley. Commissioner Wright, you're in the queue.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the zoo having me out a couple of times and the presentation on it. It looks like a wonderful project. I know the state has stepped up and has made a sizable grant to the zoo. I think I heard that you came before the city and maybe were not successful. Is that right?
Yeah, Matt Thompson, President CEO, Memphis Zoo. That is correct. We did not make it in the budget. However, we are working with some city council people to maybe change that in this coming budget, or in this current budget.
Yeah, because I think what Commissioner Ford was getting at earlier and what Chairman Whaley spoke to is what I would expect to see of the city. Before the county really moves very far, I would expect the city to update that agreement. If it's a city property, they really need to do right by the zoo and make sure that they're taking the first step. So that's something, if we talk, I know Commissioner Sugarman talked about, is this recurring? I believe it was you. And that's something that I would want to see before the county, certainly before the county takes that step. I would want to make sure the city is updating that agreement. We have 2 council members who work for the county. Hopefully they're listening. And another one who's speaking on our agenda later today, but let's make that happen. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Thornton, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a follow-up, I think I saw a headline that was saying that a part of your increased operating costs had some type of implication to crime and safety. Can you just expound upon what that headline was trying to convey to the public? And then I'll make my wrap-up point after that.
You want to speak to that, Clayton?
Clayton Jones, Chief Operations Officer at the Memphis Zoo. What that was basically alluding to is that I've got 3 entities that right now basically help us to basically keep the zoo safe. One is my internal staff, which is about 35 staff members, and 2 is we employ the Memphis PD department from a secondary employment plan. And also the third one is we got a private security firm that basically keeps our parking lot basically pretty safe and pretty clean as well. So I'm expected to basically, in this year, spending right at about $1.5 million between those 3.
And has that figure increased over time?
Yes, ma'am, it has basically increased over time. And good news about that is that basically last year, FY24, we had 0 incidents in the parking lot. This year, we've only basically had 1 incident in the parking lot. And this car was basically recovered within about an hour. And that's all due to the 3 entities that I basically got out in the parking lot.
Okay. Can you share your budget for the past 3 years with us in advance of Monday?
Yes, I can. Right now, I can tell you right now for FY25, my budget is right at about $5 million between the 2. That's guest services, parking, and also 2 maintenance.
Okay.
But for the guest service and parking, it's basically right at about $850,000.
Okay, nice. If you could just share the full budget with us in advance of the meeting and just send that to the entire commission. The only other point to be made is I'm going to support this contingent upon the conversations around the budget amendments for my district. When you're talking about increased operating costs related to crime and safety, there's focusing on increasing the zoo's salary, and then there's going to meet communities in need that are not being properly resourced, who would be contributing to that need for you to increase your budget. So I think we need to walk and chew gum. I do view this as an asset in Shelby County, and I also understand that our people are, they're not sufficiently being supply the needs that they have. And so we have to invest dollars, appropriately for both priorities. So I'm hoping that we can do both because we have a great opportunity. And I hope also in this point to just acknowledge without a properly fully funded transit system, this great asset as well as Shelby Farms that has been mentioned, they're not really able to be access at the rate that they could if people could actually get there. And so I make that point just for y'all just to continue to remember we want, the Tennessee Tuesday to be honored by all Tennesseans across Shelby County. And so for some of the districts that are coming from across town, it is a harder access point. So thank you for all that you're doing to be able to make it a more accessible space. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. Commissioner Brooks, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. Number one, I support the zoo. Let me just say that. But I did hear you mention, I think you mentioned something about it, additional money will enable you to continue to give waivers or stipends for school children. You didn't say that?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. So do you have waivers or stipends to allow children, school children, to come free?
Shelby, you want to speak to that?
We see about 60,000 school children a year on field trips, probably another 50,000 through our education programs, and we do have multiple programs that we do, scholarships, waivers. I can get you that information, but we have very reduced school group rate admissions.
Okay, so then let me ask you, yes or no, does the state of Tennessee provide any funding for school children or needy children or economically challenged children?
Not directly to the zoo.
Not directly.
We do not receive funding from the state for school children to attend the zoo.
Okay. The last comment, I guess I'd like for you to comment on, I've received several emails in reference to out-of-state boards or foundations that question some of the expenditures of the zoo, and I'm sure you may have seen some of those also. Can you just kind of maybe share some information as to where that may be coming from? Not where it's coming from, but why that may be out there.
Sure. Matt Thompson, President and CEO of Memphis Zoo. I think what is being pointed to is our foundation. So it's very common for zoos to have a foundation. And so we as the Memphis Zoo are a 501c3. We are the operator of the Memphis Zoo. We do, in addition, have a foundation, and that came about by a longtime donor of ours donated a property to us, a farm. And he requested that be held separately. And so that's what started, we formed the foundation around that. No, it's out in the county, it's out in Eads.
Okay.
And so we formed a foundation around that because we chose to keep that asset. Okay. So, as a 501c3, we could sell it, we could keep it or whatever, and because we chose to keep it to be a mission-based entity, we formed something around that so that we could do that.
So you have no out-of-state affiliates?
We do not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. I don't see any additional commissioners in the queue for this item. Madam Clerk, can you please prepare our screens for voting? Madam Clerk, can you tally our votes, please?
We have aye votes from Commissioners Clay Bibbs, Sugarman, Ford, Wright, Bradford, Thornton, Brooks, Lowry, Avant, and Chairman Whaley. We have 10 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 3R, that motion passes. Madam Parliamentarian, can you read item number 3S?
Item 3S is a motion amending the fiscal year 2026 operating budget to allocate funding to the Juvenile Court of Memphis and Shelby County in the amount of $713,564 from the general fund, sponsored by Commissioner Henry Brooks.
That item was moved by Commissioner Brooks. A second by Commissioner Avant. All right, and we have Judge Sugarman.
Good afternoon, Judge Tarek Sugarman, Memphis and Shelby County Juvenile Court. We have 3 items that we're requesting approval from the Budget Committee. The first is a 30% shift of the funds from the DHS grant we received to run our magistrates who handle our 4Ds. Our core magistrates are handling about 30%. We're asking that 30% be shifted over to give them more capacity. The bottom line is currently our magistrates are limited to a narrow set of eligible cases, primarily in child support. They're handling a much broader range of critical matters, especially in child welfare. I mean, we're under a great demand and has grown significantly over the past couple of years. This shift ensures that we are restricted not just to 4D matters, but also we handle other types of matters, such as in fiscal year 2025, the court heard over 38,000 cases. During fiscal year 2025, we handled 4,000 dependency and neglect cases. The court cannot meet its statutory timelines for adjudication and disposition of these matters due to the volume and lack of judicial capacity. Adjudication hearings under the dependency and neglect cases and statutes have to be heard within 30 days if a child is placed outside of the home, and in 30 days, no later than 90 days, unless good cause is shown if the adjudication remains in the home. We also have over 2,000 cases related to custody and visitation. We're asking that you authorize and approve the portion of the budget of $280,841.52 to replace that 30% that our core magistrates are having to serve handling child support cases. The next matter is to add an additional magistrate. We requested 2 magistrates to expand judicial capacity. Why it matters is the court is handling a very high volume of complex cases, many involving vulnerable youth and time-sensitive family matters. The impact is that 2 additional magistrates would allow us to hear an estimated 212 more cases per week, dramatically reducing delays for families. And with 2 new magistrates, we will be able to expand the following dockets: dependence and neglect, which I had mentioned in the earlier presentation, custody, visitation. Currently, our core magistrates are making less than Nashville, than other counties in the state. Nashville's magistrates make between $145,000 and $175,000 a year. Additionally, the Public Defender's Office got an increase to their managers and supervisors that would be about the same amount, if not more, than what our current magistrates are making. And as you know, the District Attorney's Office makes their supervisors make more than our magistrates do, who actually have to hear these cases, very complex cases, and they have to be proficient not only in criminal laws, they have to be proficient in 24 Tennessee Code titles, 5 sets of procedural rules: the Tennessee Rules of Juvenile Procedure, Criminal Procedure, Civil Procedure for Child Support, Tennessee Rules of Court, Shelby County Attorney's Office, which got an increase to $161,000. Those are our 3 requests, and the total request adds up to $713,564.88.
Thank you, Judge Sugarman. Commissioner Sugarman, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Chair. And so Judge Sugar's my brother, but I will be voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sugarman. Commissioner Caswell, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Judge, for that presentation and staff. I was wondering when you talk about the truancy, I know it's been some conversations about truancy in the Shelby County schools and how all of that is working. So what's the outlook on really the accountability going back to holding people accountable when it comes to chronic absenteeism, truancy of our children from school? What do that look like?
Process in which we have levels. The first instance is notice from the school system that parents have to come to court. We address what concerns are going on in the household, if it's deficiencies in transportation, deficiencies in resources, so the children are adequately prepared to go to school. Then that's taken under advisement, and it can be resolved as long as the child is not truant. Then it goes to the next level, where it could result in a referral for dependency neglect, for educational neglect, where the parent stands the chance of losing not only the child, but also the children in the household. And then the final is a referral to the District Attorney's Office of Prosecution for contributing delinquency of a minor by not making sure the child is going to school on an adequate basis. And that court, we are handling about 15 cases of truancy per week. I think our dockets are, what, once a week? Once a week.
Some of the wraparound services or supports that the families can be able to tap into, or is there any mechanism in place around connecting them to some type of addressing the root cause of why this family and their child is not in compliance?
Yes, absolutely. As you know, we're working with community partners that are also delivering those services, but this connects with one other ask we've had, that is the 30% payment of the 4D magistrates requirement under DHS to handle 30% of the cases. That savings can be used for co-parenting classes, which is important, especially in DNNs and in truancy issues. So those funds will not go unused. They will be used.
Okay, and Judge, when we think about, too, your capacity, I know some of that concern is getting the children back and forth. I know that's being worked on. Are you currently having any cases where you're handling out at the new YAC Center? Are you dealing with any cases there?
Every day. I have my 208 docket, which is the violent offenses that are referrals for transfer to adult court. And also we have detention, which we're required to do within a certain time frame under the statute. Detention occurs there for youth that are detained to determine whether or not that detainment should continue, and delinquency cases are handled that are they're in custody delinquency cases. And if I may introduce our Chief Legal Officer, Eric Evans, wants to add something additional.
Good afternoon, Erica Evans, Chief Judicial Officer, Juvenile Court of Memphis and Shelby County. I wanted to just go back to our SAMS docket. As Judge explained, we now shifted from truancy to school advocacy matters. And the reason why we thought that was appropriate is really trying to give those services and wraparound services. So when those families come for the very first time to court, not the magistrate on the bench will give somewhat of a speech to explain what the docket is, but then the families are given an opportunity to speak to the school district. The parents are appointed an attorney, and if necessary, the student or the child is also appointed a guardian ad litem, and then they're also able to speak to our court staff, our youth development specialists, to really create a plan that will ensure that those families are set up for success. And normally those matters are set out for another 30 or 60 days so that they know, so there's like progress happening and making sure that we can hopefully dismiss that matter. And as you said, most of the time we're seeing transportation as an issue. One thing that's been really exciting to see is that the school district, again, is there, and they have several representatives there, not only their truancy liaisons, but other individuals who can talk about bus routes and safety and all of those things, so the parents have that on access.
Thank you. If I could just take a point of privilege, I do want to just thank Commissioner Brooks. I know I stopped in the meeting the other day. I'm sure a lot of these questions was asked, but had a great turnout and great bringing all you leaders together for this information on this past weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Caswell. Commissioner Brooks, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Judge Sugarman, let me just first start off by thanking you for taking a couple of hours out, and Dr. Hill on a Saturday to be with the public to talk about the detention transition. I'm sure we all appreciate that very much. Got so many compliments in terms of the information that you all provided, so I appreciate that. But let me just ask you to talk about, you say 4Ds, when you're talking about 4D, what kind of program is that? Sort of break that down.
Tarek Sugarman, Juvenile Court Judge. It is a state-funded program to the Department of Human Services. Not really a program. What it is financing for the collection of families who are receiving state benefits, basically, and to make sure that those cases are handled in juvenile court. The state pays for the salaries for the 40 magistrates, and the contract requires that also our court magistrates handle 30% of any child support cases. So by taking that caseload off of our core magistrates, now it gives us additional judicial capacity to have them adjudicate cases, again, like dependency neglect, termination of parental rights, other family welfare types of cases. Okay. And I want to say it was a great takeaway from the opportunity to speak in the community at Hollywood Community Center this past Saturday, because I learned a lot about what a lot of citizens aren't hearing about what we're doing at juvenile court. They think that all of our children that are at the Youth Justice and Education Center are being transported back and forth to juvenile court. It's only a small percentage that are actually detained of the delinquency cases that we handle, and so we appreciate the opportunity to learn more from the community.
And let me just say before my time run out that how important it is to make sure that we do have more magistrates to handle some of those non-4D cases, because the child welfare, dependency and neglect, delinquency, we certainly need more magistrates to do some of the things that you're talking about. And I've been there, I've worked there, and that didn't happen. And that's part of the problem, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. So you know, just thinking about all of the resolutions and budget amendments that we've passed, it seemed, not passed, but that have come before us, we've neglected our children. Did I miss something? So this is an opportunity for us to do something for those children that we know are acting out right now, that we see on social media, all kinds of media platforms, because there's not the adequate resources there for them. And so what I hear you all saying is that through this little funding,
Time in or supply that information leading into Monday, that would be helpful.
Stephanie Hill, Chief Administrative Officer. If you flip to the appendix of the annual report that you receive, if you go about 4 pages in, you'll see a zip code snapshot that shows detained youth by zip code. It also shows the child poverty rate. So if you flip to about toward the back of the annual report, that bound annual report, and go to the appendix, if you flip about 4 pages in, you'll see a map that has zip code data.
And just offhand, do you know what the top couple of zip codes are?
On that map, because it's an overlay, 38109 is number 1. I don't remember the exact order of the others, but if anybody flips to the appendix and you flip about 4 pages in, you'll get to that zip code map.
Okay, if you could bring that map with you for questions on Monday, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And Judge Tark, Shelby Juvenile Court, I also want to mention those reports are available online to those that are listening and want to read the reports themselves.
Technically,
on our webpage, right, is our.
Okay, so I hear that it's public facing. I just, with the time that I have left, I just want to go back to the fact that I've heard y'all say in committee that 38118 is what stood out to me, what I continue to say, hopefully not erroneously, was that 40% was coming from this particular zip code. So this is the Oak Haven area, and I just would like to hear it again because I'm starting to see, as I'm moving closer in with nonprofits on the ground, some of the dynamics as to why Oak Haven would actually be a high turnout zip code in terms of youth crime, and just want to make sure that we're being solutions oriented this budget season. So can you just speak to Oak Haven or any type of observations that you're seeing from the 38118 zip code?
Stephanie Hill, Chief Administrative Officer. So when we come on Monday, we can speak specifically to your district because the way the map is broken down, it's by zip code. So we can come and be prepared to speak specifically to your district, and then we give you the net number of detainees by your zip code, and we can break that into a percentage based on the total number of youth that have been detained for you for Monday.
If possible. If not, we'll understand that you're talking about both 10 and 11 in your report.
We will get as granular as we can for you all on Monday, absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks, you're in the queue.
last time, just want to reinforce the fact that if we want to do more, I call it truancy, but if we want to do more around family, what do you call family reform matters, school advocacy matters, then of course we will have to put more money there. It takes a lot of money to do that kind of thing. We have a number of children and families who have so many psychosocial issues, and when they come to juvenile court, they have to be dealt with. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, and I've forgotten it, but in reference to the request, Dr. Hill, is it possible for you to overlay the districts with these numbers, commission districts?
Stephanie Hill, Chief Administrative Officer. I'll go back to our Director of Research and Data and ask her to see if we can reconfigure it by the districts versus by the zip codes. Bailey, who does our psychological assessments, because there's been a significant increase, so that's an add-on that's coming later today.
Okay, here it is. With our children that come to conferences with probation counselors, are we allowing, well, not allowing, but do we have the legal staffing to attend those conferences, as we should, as required? Attorneys attending probation counseling conferences. When children are brought in, say for a juvenile act, and they need to see a probation counselor. I think one of the DOJ reform recommendations was that they needed to have an attorney in those probation conferences, because they could say something that could incriminate themselves in conference that would be used in court.
Erica Evans, Chief Judicial Officer, Juvenile Court. So under the rules of the Tennessee Juvenile Practice and Procedure, they are required to have their rights read when any youth is brought in. And so if there does rise to a level that there is a complaint that's actually filed or a petition, then the youth will absolutely be afforded an attorney at that time.
Okay, I'm almost out of time, but they, when you read rights to children, they don't have a clue about that, really. And I'm not being ugly, I'm just stating a fact here. But if you go back and get the DOJ reforms from 2012, one of the reforms recommended, and they cited some kind of citation in reference to having attorneys in probation conferences, because children will incriminate themselves in those conferences, and those counselors take notes, and those notes are in legal jackets and social jackets that's passed to the judge.
Yes, our youth development, Tarek Sugarman Juvenile Court, our youth development specialists, which are, for all intended purposes, what you're referring to as counselors, do not give interrogations. They are providing services. They are advising the magistrates on what array of services are available for this child, depending on their particular needs. What the DOJ was referring to, where probation officers were asking questions and then having to go into court and give statements about what the child has said. That's not occurring, unless only on things that are post-adjudication, like violation of EM policy, being out of place, being out past curfew. Those things they will ask about, because that's part of their responsibility as the youth development specialist, to make sure they're keeping track of the child, the family is getting the resource, and the parents are doing what they're supposed to do in terms of keeping up with their own children. So nothing that the youth development specialists ask about in their development of a plan and pattern for that child's rehabilitation, nothing that's discussed then has to do with the offense.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Vice Chair Avent, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think my question, you pointed out about the information in the annual report that I think Commissioner Thornton was asking about. I just want to make sure that she knew that that was there, that some of that information had been provided, and they had the number of detainees by zip code. So thank you again for the annual report. I think it provides a lot. I was not able to come to the subcommittee, but I think it provides a lot of information that helps, and I support this item.
Thank you, Vice Chair Avent. Madam Clerk, we're at the point of voting on item 3S. Madam Clerk, can you please tally your votes?
I wrote it down, but it stops. We have aye votes from Commissioner Bibbs, Caswell, Sugarman, Brooks, Laurie, Avent. We have 6 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion, 3S, goes down. 3S as a motion passes. Do want to say for our audience and our listening public that we have 3T, 3U, and 3V, and then we will be finished with amendments. Just want to give you an update kind of on where we are.
$100,000 from the operating budget fund, sponsored by Chairman Michael Whaley and Vice Chair Shantae Avent, Commissioner McKell Lowry, Commissioner David Bradford, and Commissioner Charlie Caswell Jr.
Thank you, Madam Parliamentarian. The item was moved by Commissioner Bradford, a second by Commissioner Caswell. Don't see any commissioners in the queue for this. Vice Chair Avant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we're getting to the end, and we have several folks that have been waiting a long time here. I just want to express my support for this particular item. For any of the commissioners who have not had a chance to go and visit the Hospitality Hub, I encourage you to do so. This pretty vital asset, and I see it as an asset because of the work that they have to support our community, including public safety and health. I think it's important for us to make this investment, and so I encourage and ask that my colleagues do support this item.
Thank you, Vice Chair Avant. So, everybody's in a little bit of delayed motion today. I get it. It's been a long day. I don't know if you came here at 9. Look, we're already at 3:15. So thank you for sticking it through. So I will now actually give an opportunity for people who are representing the Hospitality Hub to be able to state some words.
Advocated heavily for Orange Mound. The only reason why there's any type of hesitance for me to support this is just not knowing what is the plan. So you've done the North Memphis satellite location. What is the actual decentralized plan that you're operating on? How does it include specific areas of the district, particularly the county, particularly Orange Mound? So I do a very long time in a very public way. It's not homelessness that's hidden. It's not homelessness that when you do count, you can't find because it's just sitting there. And so